Welcome back, old sport. I hope you're enjoying your time with the mysterious and charismatic man of wealth known as Jay Gatsby. I mean, the parties! Can you believe it? So extravagant, so glitzy, so over-the-top indulgent. That guy really knows how to entertain, but exactly what do we know about him? We've heard the rumors, but it's hard to say what's true and what's not, am I right? Seriously, where did Gatsby get all that money? And what's up with Jordan Baker? Did she actually cheat at golf? Does Daisy know about Tom and Myrtle? And Tom! Don't get me started on him. All right, we might not be able to answer all of these questions right now, but in today's video, we'll review what we've read so far, learn a bit more about the historical context of this novel, and discuss how symbols and motifs are used. Before we part, we'll do a quick rundown of your lesson agenda so that you'll be ready for chapters 4 through 6 this week. The Great Gatsby. It's a modernist masterpiece, even if people didn't really see that when it was first published. You've got a guy named Jay Gatsby who put the war behind him, seized opportunities, and captured the American dream. He must be so happy, right? Yet there is some desire in him, something he cannot reach out and grab, sort of like that green light across the water. Hey, what is the name of that feeling when you thought certain things were great, but then you realize they're not so great after all? Oh yeah, disillusionment. Once again, we may be heading towards a theme of disillusionment at the heart of a modernist work, but we can't make too many predictions at this point. I mean, we're only 3 chapters in. Let's take a little trip down memory lane and review chapters 1 through 3. Nick Carraway is our narrator. He graduated from Yale, and he's taking some time to learn the bond business. He seems drawn to the excitement of New York and to his glamorous neighbor's lifestyle, but then again, he isn't so sure. He's giving us the play-by-play of what he observes and a good dose of subjectivity in his opinions. Nick has a cousin named Daisy Buchanan, a Southern debutante who has grown up accustomed to a life of wealth and ease. Sounds a little like Zelda Fitzgerald. Daisy is beautiful and charming and at times affectionate, but then at times she seems kind of distant, even with her own child. Basically, Daisy's biggest attachments seem to be money and luxury. Daisy is married to Tom Buchanan. Tom is a big guy with generational wealth, or old money, and he was a football star at Yale when Nick was there. Everything about the guy screams power. And how does he use his power? He lives a self-indulgent life and promotes racist and sexist attitudes. Oh, and he's having an extramarital affair with Myrtle Wilson, whose husband runs a garage in the Valley of Ashes. She's on a much lower rung of the social status ladder, but that doesn't stop Tom from keeping an apartment in New York for their romantic interludes. Tom and Daisy also have a friend named Jordan Baker. She's a golfer from the old money set who tends to bore easily, and her friends kind of set her up with Nick, who lets us know that she's dishonest. But there's a lot of dishonesty going on, so maybe Nick will just overlook it. Jordan and the Buchanans live in old money East Egg, but the man of mystery who lives in new money West Egg is Jay Gatsby. We're not sure where his money came from, but we know he's a war veteran and his mansion is next door to Nick. We also know that Gatsby had a private conversation with Jordan Baker when she attended his elaborate party. Do you think we'll be able to connect Gatsby to all the other characters as well? You're probably right, but no spoilers for now. Instead, let's return to the Roaring Twenties and discuss another name for that era, the Jazz Age. Jazz is the uniquely American style of music that became part of America's progressive counterculture in the 1920s. Similar to the visual art and literature of modernism, jazz relies on experimental techniques, things like syncopated rhythms and improvisation. It appealed to young people of the time, who were looking for alternatives to the old traditional ways. New Orleans is recognized as the birthplace of jazz, but it quickly spread across the nation and the world, inspiring new dances, new fashions, and an entirely new culture. Jazz catapulted many African American artists into fame, and although segregation may have prevented these artists from being guests in the same clubs where their music was played, their music came to define an age. The music of artists like Louis Armstrong, Duke Ellington, Bessie Smith, and Jelly Roll Morton formed the soundtrack of the decade with their highly original sounds and progressive style. While jazz was popular at clubs and parties, the awareness of this music and access to it was greatly enhanced by radio. Radio programs became popular during the 1920s, and radios quickly became a consumer good that appeared in many American homes. Fitzgerald knew the elements of style that appealed to his contemporaries, and he filled The Great Gatsby with the culture of the jazz age. We've talked about symbolism before, and you know how it works. A concrete object is representative of an abstract concept. Symbolism adds depth and meaning, but it's usually up to the reader to determine just what the symbols represent. Sometimes there is a clear answer, but usually there's not. Let's take a look at some symbols used in The Great Gatsby. First of all, there's that green light. Gatsby stands in his backyard staring across the water in the direction of Daisy's house, and there's this green light he seems to be looking at. What could that mean? Green can mean go. Green can signal envy, jealousy, or green can indicate new rebirth and hope. A lot to consider. When you put it in the context of the novel, what might that green light represent? Okay, here's another symbol for you. In Chapter 2, Tom takes Nick to a garage in the Valley of Ashes. The Valley of Ashes is this desolate area that sits between West Egg and New York City, and it's where all the industrial ashes get dumped. So it's between the area where people with money live a life of luxury and the city that is at the center of commerce. It connects the wealth to the banks and the stock market and the business side of industrialism. But it's a place where people work hard and don't have much to show for it. Definitely not a life of luxury, and like I said, it's where the industrial ashes get dumped. So what do you think Fitzgerald is trying to say? When talking about symbols, we can't ignore the billboard with the eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckelberg. It's like these eyes are watching everyone who comes through the Valley of Ashes and everyone who lives there, and the ashes that are being dumped there. Watching, judging, seeing the truth behind the mask? Whoa. Again, lots to think about. You'll read more about symbolism in your PDF this week, but continue to pay close attention to these and other symbols as you read. In addition to symbols, authors can add depth and meaning to broad themes through the use of motifs. Motifs are repeated elements, maybe a word or an image or an idea that recurs throughout the novel. A motif is sort of like this undercurrent that carries a major theme. In The Great Gatsby, there are several motifs. One of them is color. For example, the color gold is associated with old money wealth, but the color yellow is often associated with J. Gatsby. How is yellow like gold yet unlike gold? Is it an imitation but not the real thing? Is it less real, less precious, less valuable? Pay attention to the way color is often woven throughout the novel as a motif. I'll give you a heads up about one more motif that will be significant in the chapters you're about to read. Watch the way weather is used, especially in relation to Gatsby and Daisy. Think about why Fitzgerald chose to make it rain when it rains, why the sun comes out when it does, why the skies turn dark again. Weather events in this book don't happen by accident. They're used as a motif and woven throughout the novel to communicate a deeper idea. Okay, let's talk about the week ahead. Beginning today and continuing through day 4, you'll have PDF readings and activities followed by online practice. On day 5, you'll answer reflection questions, refresh your writing skills, and create a playlist of 5 songs that represent the tone, theme, and characters of The Great Gatsby. For each song, you'll provide a brief explanation of how the song represents the novel's atmosphere and characters, and you'll provide some text evidence to back it up. Should be fun! After that, you'll wrap up this week with your lesson assessment. Okay, time travelers, enjoy your trip to the Jazz Age, with excitement around every corner, with glitter and glamour galore. And hey, old sport, while you're there, say hello to Gatsby for me, will ya?